Today we are going to discuss about the main important topic is the living world. What does it mean? What non-living things are there and what living beings are there, and we just differentiate some the both aspect. In your NCERT, there are some certain the criteria for providing to distinguish between the living aspects and non-living aspects, and here we are mentioning here, and the first one is the growth. The growth is one of the important aspects for living beings, right? And growth, and next one is the reproduction and metabolism, and next is cellular organization, and last one is the consciousness. Consciousness. Here there are the five terms and five the characters and features of living organisms, and here the how to defining the characters of living organisms, and each and every sentence, each and every the terms we have to mention here, and let us we can think about the growth. Growth. Do you think about the growth is living factors and its defining features, and whether it is defining or non-defining, and let us we can discuss about it. The growth. The growth. The what is the meaning of growth? The growth is the increase in the mass and cell division. The increase in the mass and size of the cell division, and it is a growth. And the characteristic features of growth in living organisms, the growth will occur. And in plants, the growth is continuously throughout their life. In animals, the growth is the certain age of limit, the growth will stop. However, in animals, the cell divisions will occur. Some rod cell, the replacing of rod cell. So that's why we are replacing the rod cell, and then the growth will be happening, and cell divisions will occur. Usually, the growth will occur. We can see the growth will only in living organisms, right? But in NCERT is mentioned here, and so the non-living objects are also growing. How it is concluded is non-living objects are also growing. Let us, I will give an example, and you can just consider from surface accumulation. So non-living things also show the as growing, right? As of now, the growth is non-defining features of living organism, because the non-living object also showing growth, and living organisms also showing growth. So it's a no clarity between and the both of them. So that's why the growth is non-defining features. The next one is the reproduction. The reproduction is the production of the progeny, the similar to their parents. That's the reproduction. It will be sexually reproductions and asexually reproduction. And it's supposed that, and sometimes in the infertile couples and honeybees and mules, such kind of organisms, they are sterile. They are not showing the fertile, right? They are not fertile. They are sterile. So that's why we are considered that are living beings, but they are sterile. So suppose the reproduction is also showing as a defining features. It's not a definitely defining features of living organisms. Here the reproductions is also not defining features of living organisms. So let us consider coming to point of the metabolism. The metabolism is very important, and metabolisms will occur in every organisms. It may be unicellular and multicellular and eukaryotic, and any organism you can consider the metabolism is occur in everywhere. So metabolism is a definite features of living organism. Because I will give an example. In metabolism, some total of all biochemical reaction, will occur in our body, and it's not a human beings, not a prokaryotic cells and not eukaryotic cells. All organisms it considers in metabolism, and And then the cellular organization. Cellular organization is a definite features of living organisms because every organism is made up of cell. It is every organisms, and cellular organisms are definite features of living organisms. And consciousness, it's let us coming under this concept is consciousness. The consciousness, it's one of the important terms because every organism will showing the consciousness. It may plants, it may animals, and any eukaryotic and prokaryotic organisms, anything. I will give an example. Suppose sunflower is the bent towards the sunlight, and touch we plant, we just touch the plant and it immediately shut their lips. So they are responding to stimulus to atmosphere condition. According to atmosphere, they are responding to stimulus of atmosphere. So that is consciousness. And whenever you touch the heat panel in a gas cylinder, and anything is there, but immediately you just remove their hand because that's why that's a consciousness. For every organisms have a consciousness. But one thing just mentioned here, and self-consciousness is here. Self-consciousness is one of the important terms. It's only belongs for human. The human have only self-consciousness. So that's very important. So here is the growth and reproduction are not definite properties of living organisms, and other than that, the metabolism, cellular organization, and consciousness, they are all definite features of living organisms. Here we just mentioned some important things here, and characterization of features and diversity of organisms, right? Diversity of organisms, how we can show that the diversity of organisms and how many organisms are found, and still the discord means the 1.6 to 1.7 million, sorry, 1.7 to 1.8 million organisms are there, and it's discord. What is biodiversity means the all organisms comes under biodiversity. And then what is the taxonomy? The taxonomy is the term of it's the identification and classification and nomenclature of organisms. That's called taxonomy. And next is the systematic. The systematics in Latin Latinized word in the systema, and it refers to, and every organisms you can just mention here. And it can show that it is a developing process. It is showing that the developing process is the ecological development process in the whole. It's coming under the systematic. And Systema Naturae is one of the book is written by Carolus Linnaeus. Naturae, it's one of the book is written by the Carolus Linnaeus. It's one of the greatest scientists. It was a great scientist at that time. It's written by this book was written by Linnaeus, right? Yes. Next is the process of taxonomy and the process of living organisms and some terms is there, and characterization. The characterization. What is the meaning of characterization? The characterization is nothing but the identification, and it is the perfect identification of organisms. It's used as the characterization, and you can just categorize it by some organisms depending on, and it belongs to characters. What characters they belong, so that we consider that characterization. And next is and nomenclature. So nomenclature is the naming of the standardization of naming of organisms, because we know that, and we just consider the all over the world we can just mention the only one word of that organism's name. So nomenclature is very important. It's a nomenclature. So we just use that the binomial nomenclature. We just think about the consider the one organisms. We just put in the two terms, and first one is the genus name, and second one is species name. Species name. What is genus and what is species? Consider, suppose we can just take an example, and Homo sapien, Homo sapiens, right? And it is Homo is refers to genus, and sapiens is refers to species and specific epithet.